show you how I make my candy apples. I've got 617 grams of sugar in this 2-quart pot, as well as a cup of karo syrup, light karo syrup. I've got a cup of water, half cup of water with a couple of drops of white food coloring, and then I'm going to add my red to that because I want these apples to be red. I'm adding, you can add as much or as little color as you want, but I'm adding a half teaspoon to the mixture. And the color that's in the cup is the color that your apples will be. So this is actually a pretty, this is pretty much red. Tulip red is the actual color that I use. And then once that's mixed, I pour that into the solution, or into the mixture. Then I stir it up really well. So there are other flavors like grape, which the flavors actually are not clear. They're actually purple, or even some that are green or yellowish. You have to think about that when you're coloring your apples, because if you add purple, purple to your red, you're going to get a not so red solution. So I've got that mixed up in my pot. One of the most important things when making candy apples is making sure that your pot is clean. So I'm going to try to move my camera over so that you can see how around the rim, inside rim, there's actually sugar. You have to clean that sugar off by using a damp pastry brush to get that off. Otherwise, when your mixture cooks, it's going to taste really grainy. You want your candy to be crunchy, not grainy. You don't want to add too much water to your mixture, because if you do, the ratios will be off, and then your candy won't last as long once it's on the apple. It'll actually melt pretty fast. So now that I've got everything going, oh, it's a waiting game now. I've got this candy thermometer that I found from Amazon. It has different settings on it that you can change depending on what you're making. We want hard crack, which is 300 degrees, and this will actually beep at me when it gets to 295. So if I'm doing something else somewhere else in the house, I'll know it's about time for it to be finished. And then at 300, the beep actually speeds up a little bit, so then I know that I'm ready to go. So you want your thermometer to sit on the side of your pot, but you do not want it to touch the bottom of your pot, because down there it's a lot hotter than it is in the solution, because that's touching directly, touching your heat source directly. So now I'm placing it on my stove. So it's on my stove, and I'm going to start it on high. And once it starts to bubble, or once it starts to boil, I'll actually turn it down to medium and let it cook the rest of the way on medium. So I'll get this going, and as soon as it starts to boil, I'll record again so you can see what it looks like. Oh, and at this stage, I put a wooden spoon over the top so that I have no boil over. So I'm going to get this going, and then I'll be back. Okay, so it has just started to boil. It's at 229 degrees. I'm actually going to lower the temperature to medium and let it cook the rest of the way on medium. Don't be afraid at this point. It will not boil over. The wooden spoon will keep it from boiling over. But I've turned it down, and it's going to actually go down a little bit in the pot. And then I'll come back just before it starts to beep. Doing another check-in, and it's up to 241 degrees, so it's still got a little ways to go. Okay, so here we're now up to 292 degrees. Got 8 degrees to go. So you'll hear it when it gets to 295 or 297, it'll start to beep. That tells me that it's almost done. So get ready to dip your apples. Can't waste too much time because the mixture will cool off fairly quickly. So you have to dip pretty fast. I have a silicone mat here that I usually put my apples on. You can see it's telling me it's almost done. It's at 296, and it'll beep on and off for a few minutes. It's at 298, 299. That beep is telling me that it's ready. I'm going to take my thermometer out. And then I'm going to pour. Now this is oil, so it's going to cause it to sort of bubble up. That's 1 gram of watermelon flavored candy oil. I'm going to stir it around. See all the bubbles? You want to make sure that those bubbles die down just a little bit before you dip your apples, because you don't want any bubbles on your apple. Okay, I'm going to let that settle for just a second. And I'm going to move the tripod over to my work table. Alright, so now the bubbles have settled. I've got everything right here. And I'm going to scoot this over a little bit. I don't want to get too heavy on that edge. So I just take the apple, and this is going to be kind of hard for you to see, but I just take it in and I swirl it around like that. And I hold it up and let the excess drip off. And that's basically it for dipping an apple. It's a beautiful red. Smells so good. Watermelon. Smells like watermelon Jolly Rancher. I have 6 of these to do for an order that I'm shipping to New Jersey. I think I'm just barely going to get 6 out of this batch. This actually is, these apples are a lot bigger than what I usually use to dip. They're quite heavy on my fingers too. Next time I'll put the tripod on my right side instead of being in front of the pot. I think I'll have enough to do just one more apple here. I'm going to move my apple over. Extra apples over. I've got one more apple I think I can get out of this batch. One more. Alright, I've got that much mixed. I'm going to try for the final apple. Probably not going to cover the entire thing, but I don't want to waste it. Actually, that's perfect because I'm going to put some alcohol in this one. That leaves me enough space at the top to insert a bottle. And then with the extra candy, what I usually will do is drizzle it down on the cooling mat, and then what I'll do is I'll break it up and they can be used as samples. I try to get as much candy out of here as I can because that'll make cleaning this pot up a lot easier. Alright, so that's pretty much set up. So I'm going to stick that pot down into some water and it will soak. But as you can see, we've got some gorgeous watermelon flavored candy apples here.